Okay, you're welcome to the range, and today we're going to be taking a look at personal parliament. Now, one of the core things about that we need to understand about personal parliament is that a parliament is a place that has people or that contains legislative guys, people with authority, and they have the authority to determine how lives, culture, business, and everything is going to function. And all of this is through the instrumentality of policies. Now, it's important for you to understand that every nation is an example of an organism at a large scale. Now, every human is an example of an organism on another smaller scale. So, one of the core things you need to understand about the concept of personal parliament is at every phase or level you get to, there is some sort of institution that acts as a parliament, and that institution is responsible for how things go. What does that mean? It means that for every system that is not working, for every country that is not working, for every life that is not working, for every business that is not working, one of the core things you need to first look for or look at is the parliamentary system. Yes, I use the parliamentary system as a metaphor. It just means that what governs that institution, what's responsible for the values, for the ethics, for the systems, for the structure, for the standards, and what have you. Okay, so when it comes to personal parliament, it's important for you to understand first that the world is governed by laws. Because you don't know the law does not mean the law does not have influence over you. For example, even if you did not know that gravitational pull was a law, if you jump up out of a skyscraper, you cannot say, no, I didn't know that there was gravity. I didn't know gravity was a law. And so I should not fall when I jump up. Understanding this makes you to realize that there are certain areas of your life you have or need to have certain levels of control or knowledge about. Your lack of due diligence in this area might be responsible for why life might turn in areas you do not want. Wealth is a law. Poverty is a law. Okay. Favor is a law. When you begin to see things from this point, then you get to understand that everything that happens to you is as a result of laws and your response to these laws. Now, when it comes to response to laws, you are either going for the law or you are moving against the law. So I'll give you an example. Gravity, as I mentioned, is a law. Flight is a law. Now, for flight does not happen outside of gravity. It just means that there is a superposition of a law that allows you to have influence in spite of the gravitational pull. What it means is that if you don't do anything, gravity will pull on you. Just the same way, if you don't do anything, poverty will pull on you. However, in order not to stay poor or to remain under the influence of poverty, there are certain things you must superimpose upon the already natural rule or the default rule that everyone tends to poverty when they are not doing certain things. If the world is continuously moving, you know that your inaction or inability to move at the pace and rate of the world means that you are actually retrogressing. I hope you understand what that means. So, when we're looking at personal parliament, and I'm going to take it as a personal link because this is what we're all about. Now, the concept of personal parliament all actually helps you to have a honest review of your life, to understand why things are the way they are, and what is that thing that you can do to improve the quality of life. Now, there are a couple of things that I'll be sharing with you just so that it gives you a bit of perspective as to what is happening and how you can work around the things that is happening. Um, as I've mentioned before, everything is governed by laws. The mobile phone you're watching me through is governed by laws. There are electromagnetic laws, okay? There are material laws, engineering laws, laws of light, laws of density and weight, and all of these things. It's responsible for the interaction you are having. You are alive today because of laws, because of rules, because of principles. Your heart is pumping because of certain principles and laws. So you need to begin to look at your life from that point, understanding that you can't see yourself as a parliament and begin to ask to say, what are the things that are responsible for the laws that currently govern my life? Are these laws sufficient for where I actually want my life to go? The issue is a lot of people pray, hope, make confessions, but do not understand that in order for their lives to change, new laws must be brought in. One of the laws of Newton's law of motion. It says that an object will continue to be at rest or at a state of perpetual motion except as external force comes contrary to it. Now, your life will continue to move in the way it is moving now until you, um, how do I put this? So you don't deactivate laws. You don't deactivate laws. You activate laws. So if there are already laws that are in operation in your life, how do I explain this? So I'll use so imagine this is an hypothetical case. Imagine there's a law of poverty, and it will make you understand why certain prayers that you're praying is an absolute waste of time. Now, if there's a certain rule or law or influence of poverty over someone's life, the wrong thing to do is I refuse to be poor. I will not be poor in Jesus' name. The right way is understand, come to the awareness that there is a certain rule at work in my members. I am not satisfied with that rule. This rule, if I continue to allow it to influence me, will lead me in the place I don't want. Where do I want to go? Where do I want to be? What are the rules and the laws that will enable me that I get there? Here it is. As long as you bring the rules and the laws that will enable you to be where you want to be, to where you currently are, nature will begin to drive you towards where you should be. And so at first, it will seem like a contention of law. But the higher the law, the higher the gradient. So if the concept of the law and the direction and the attention is towards where you want to go, gradually life will begin to move you there. And that's how people actually have answers to prayers. Now, what are some of the things you need to now begin to take a look at or become quite aware of when we're talking about your own personal parliament? For example, you are where you are because of three things. There are more than that, but I'm just going to talk about three things. There's a plane passing by, just in case you can hear it. There's nothing I can do about it. Now, one of the first things is personal decision. You are where you are today because of personal decision. First, admit it that you are where you are because of certain decisions you make. There are certain decisions you made, either by error of omission or commission, that brought you to where you are today. Admit it, take responsibility for yourself. That is the first point of growth. Now, the second point is that you are where you are today because of where you are coming from. And where you're coming from talks about your familiar lines, your family. A lot of people do not even know that the way in which their life is bound to end is based off of the programmings of their family. Until you are intentional about changing that programming, if you are not aware of the programming of your family, you will end up like them. It is when you find out the kind of programming you want that will lead you to where you should be, and you impose that programming upon your current reality, that is when change will begin to happen. So you cannot play dead with these rules. You can't say, oh, my father was bad, but I will choose to be better. It's not by mouth. You have to understand, what does it take to be better? What are the rules? What are the personal decisions? What kind of families, what kind of structures and systems enable these things to happen? Now, the third thing are now what we call external influence bubble. Now, like I mentioned before, these are originally default laws and rules in operation. When people are not doing anything, or they're not doing anything much, and you see that in spite of their indifference, they are still tending towards a particular way. That is the bubble. Now, there are two basic kinds of bubble. There's a bubble that you go into, there's a system, there's an environment that no matter what you do, as long as you are in that bubble, you will always go in the direction of the programming of that bubble. So some bubbles are programmed for poverty, are programmed for lack, are programmed for death, are programmed for sicknesses. As long as you're in that bubble and you don't do anything, you're going to tend towards that. There are certain bubbles as well that if you don't do anything as much, just because you are in it, because the bubble is probably programmed for growth, for success, for prosperity. Once you stay in that bubble, you move in the direction of that bubble. But here is the difference that you also need to understand. That's why I said if you don't do anything and you're in that bubble. So if you're in a bubble that is moving towards prosperity, but the personal programming and decisions you are making is that which tends to poverty. Remember what I said at the beginning. You would always move in the direction of your programming. It means that because of the programming that is working in you, by natural rule, you will be ejected out of that bubble of prosperity and be looking for the bubble of poverty. So your personal decisions the family you have come from and the system surrounding that family, and then the bubble of influence you are in. Now, when it comes to personal parliament, this is the point of discernment. This is the point of search, of information, of revelation, of insight. What are the things that would enable you to change your state? So, vision is very important. Now, it could be vision, it could be revelation, but something that gives you a picture of where you need to. The thing is that a lot of people, people have when they make what's it called now, New Year resolutions and vision boards. They say, "Well, I want to be rich," then they find a picture of a rich person and then they put it on their walls. That is a kindergarten approach to destiny, because the picture of a wealthy person will do nothing for you. The goal of that picture of a wealthy person is to continuously put in your face that image, so that the image begins to rewire your mind and begins to reprogram you. When that reprogramming is complete, another law is activated, and then that law begins to move you in the direction of that dream. So even if you don't have a picture on your wall and there's a picture in your heart, it is the picture in the heart that is more important than the picture on the wall. Now, when you have a picture in your heart through personal parliament, it lets you know what are the rules, what are the influences that will make sure that as long as I continue to do these things, I will end up this way. And this is where the critical thinking comes. And a lot of people miss it at this point because people don't think. Thinking is a skill, and not everyone has it. It's not daydreaming, it is thinking practically. You must be able to think holistically. So, what kind of examples can I give you? I'll use finance and wealth. For example, maybe someone who currently earns 200,000 naira a month, but he wants to be in a reign of someone who earns 1 million naira a month. That is the picture he sees of himself. And so he understands that if he continues to do what he's currently doing now, he would stay in that 200,000 naira salary. So what can you begin to do? You begin to search. Those who earn 1 million naira, what kind of jobs do they do? What kind of families do they come from? What kind of personal decisions do they make? Where do they live? What are the kind of information they have? Which school did they go to? Did they go to public secondary school, public primary school, public university, state university, private university? You must search out these things. And then, okay, I cannot go back to university, okay, or I choose not to go back to university. What can I do? Okay, now, okay, do they further their education? Do they have certain kinds of friends? What's their spiritual life like? What's the quality of their relationship like? Where are the places they go? Where do they worship? You must find these facts, and that's where the thinking part is. The problem is that a lot of people want to get that result without doing the work that gets you that result. It cannot work. Now, when we're talking about personal parliament, there is a place of authority. Authority comes by relationship. It means that you know something or you have something that endues more power to you, and then you are able to leverage that power to get certain results. So, when you find out the kind of work, the kind of skill, so maybe you don't have the skill of those kind of people. Okay, how do you get the skill? Do you need experience? Do you need coaching? I'll stop here. It's one of the reasons that I've always said that if you are listening to me and you don't have a coach, you are not subscribed to some sort of coaching, that means that someone who is at that level. So, coaching is different from mentoring. Mentoring is okay, the person just gives you life wisdoms, and you meet once in a while, and the relationship is good, but there are no intentionalities and discipline is not really there. It's you are searching for wisdom. But for coaching, you are searching for discipline. You need things to work. You want things to work, and you're ready to do whatever it takes to make things work. And so, one of the things I'd say, coaching is one of the points that is the missing gap between where you are and where you want to go. For example, Jesus had what? Disciples. He was like a coach to them. He was not a mentor. He was a coach. He would tell them, okay, two by two, go into this city, do this, do that, and they come back with results. And then, they ask him, oh, you of little faith, how long will I be with you? That sometimes he would talk to them, he would chastise them, he would train them, he would teach them, he would give them wisdom. That is coaching. And so, one of the ways to begin to engage in personal parliament in an upward drive is to ensure that what are some of the things that where you want to go, and that's where the set of vision, structures, and standards comes into place. Where you want to go, what does it look like? How long will it take you there? Do you have what it takes now? So when you're looking at yourself, do you have the money for it? Do you have the relationship for it? Do you have the determination for it? Do you have the capital for it? Do you have the skills for it? If you don't, there is something you have that you can use as a point of access to that thing. So maybe you can have a skill that someone at that level needs, or you have an acquaintance or mutual connect, or social media world, you have access online to visit places, get information, have trainings, and what have you. I'm bringing all of these to a personal line, a personal life. This is one of the reasons why you cannot afford to live, fold your hands and do nothing in life. Why? I mentioned the final things about the external bubbles. The world is becoming darker and more unbearable. Artificial intelligence is going to strip about 40% of people off of the workforce in the next 3 to 5 years. So it means that all the skills people believe gives them earning ability will be taken away. If you do not want to be surprised when that begins to happen, now is the time to begin to work. You have to first imagine, what is the future going to be like? If you have a wrong image, you are getting to the wrong destination. So if you cannot do the work, do you have people around your space who have painted a picture of a future that looks like where you can be? Collaborate with those people, serve those people, let them teach you, coach you, mentor you, everything they can do to ensure that when the rocks, when the storms, when the winds, when the floods actually come, you will not be swept away. I'm going to end with this. There's a very sad day coming, and that is the day where a lot of people have invested in the wrong places. So, for example, there are many people who believe that their hope is in Japa, like traveling out, because it's a better land, more opportunities. But here's something I can tell you by intelligence. In the next 7 to 10 years, the world is the world will begin to see that Africa is the nexus. A lot of creations, things will begin to come up, and with culture, with weather, with finance, with structure of life, and all of that, the world will begin to see that Africa has realistically what it takes to sustain the world: the temperature, the minerals, the people in the sense that the population grows in Africa, and our skin tone, our melanin, and all of these things. What is my point of this? You must begin to seek to understand yourself and the visions that is in your head, and begin to map out how to get there. The problem is that you don't ask the right questions, even if you ask any questions at all. One of the things I love about my session is for anyone who really understands these sessions will have a lot of questions. It is when they begin to ask these questions that they find their answers. And questions allow you to think, because the quality of the questions you ask determines the quality and the depth of your thought. And in order to get out of this quagmire, you must think your way out. This decade is going to be for creators. So if you are someone who is getting your sustenance from someone else, you're about to lose your job. You're about to lose your livelihood. There must be something you are creating. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be something that has value, that can connect you with certain people. If that is able to happen, then you can now begin to build on that to create streams out of it. And that streams can have what it takes to transform your life to the next best thing. Now, so this is going to be the first part on personal parliament. In the next session of personal parliament, we will now begin to take a look at more of the pragmatics, and how you can begin to use this as a step-by-step path, to make life more meaningful, and to become a more relevant voice in this world. So we'll see you on the other side.